Hello, in this video we are going to walk through the installation and configuration of Active Directory and DNS on a fresh install of Server 2019. As you can see, I am logged into Server 2019 as we are looking at the dashboard and Server Manager. I'm going to go ahead and click on Configure this local server. You're going to see that I only have a couple things configured other than an absolutely fresh install. The only things I've done are I configured a static IP address, disabled Windows Firewall, and IE Enhanced Security configuration. I turned that off, and Windows Defender, disabled that as well. The last thing I did is enabled Remote Desktop. Other than that, this is a completely fresh install of Windows Server 2019. To see that fresh install, how to do that, there is another video in this playlist on my channel, so feel free to check that out if you'd like to see how to install Server 2019 fresh. So to install Active Directory and DNS, we need to go to Manage in the top right. We're going to add roles and features. This is Microsoft, so it is going to be a nice, easy, wizard-driven installation. We're going to click Next. Click Next again. Next again. And then from here, we're going to select Active Directory, so we're going to do Active Directory Domain Services. Once we select that, it's going to tell us that, hey, there's a few extra features that you have to install as well if you want to install that, so that's fine. We're going to click Add Features. We also want to install DNS. So you could, depending on the size of your environment and how you want the configuration done and the architecture, you could break these roles out into separate devices and have multiple DNS servers for redundancy, multiple Active Directory servers for redundancy, etc. Every environment is going to be different. However, for the purposes of this video, we're just going to do Active Directory and DNS running on a single instance. All right, so with that selected, both Active Directory and DNS, we're going to click Next. We don't need to add any additional features because it already told us the ones that we have to enable. We're going to click Next, 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 and then we're going to install. I am going to select the Restart the Destination Server automatically if required. And just give us another pop-up warning just to make sure that we want to allow that. So I'm going to click Yes, and then I'm going to install. This won't take too long, only a minute or two to go through this. However, I will just skip that so you don't have to watch it twice, and we'll just jump back once it's completed. Alright, we are back, and as you can see, the installation has succeeded. However, we still have some configuration required, of course. So in order to do that, we can just click right here to promote this server to domain controller. However, if you have closed out this dialog box, you can close. There is another way to do it, and that's to click the flag in the top right that has the little caution yellow sign there. If you left click that, then we can do that from here as well. So let's go ahead and promote this server to a domain controller. That's going to bring up the configuration wizard for Active Directory. If we were adding this to an existing domain, you would leave this radio button checked. Or if we're adding a new domain into an existing forest, we just select that one. However, this is all brand new, so we're going to say add a new forest here. Now the root domain name, that can be whatever you need it to be, whatever you want it to be. So just for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to name this one jblab.com. Go to Next. All right, from here we need to select the functional level. So if this is a brand new environment and you didn't have any requirements or really old equipment or software, then I would recommend just sticking with the functional level of Server 2016 and just kind of leaving that as is. However, if you were adding this into an existing forest or something like that, then you'll need to select the appropriate level to make sure it functions with everything as it should. But from here we do need to set a password. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click Next. This is asking if we want to create a DNS delegation, and it actually won't let us select that. And that you can, if you click the Show More, then you'll see why, and that's because there's not really a DNS configured that it can do that yet. We're going to do that here in just a moment. So from here we can just click Next again. So it'll take just a few seconds, and it'll give us the NetBIOS name. We're going to leave that default as well. Just give it some time here. Right, for the paths to all the database log and the sysfile folder, we're going to leave that all default. Once again, this is representative of a very small environment, so we're going to leave it default as is. Click next. Here we can see a screen was got all the options that we had set, so we can just double check to make sure that we have everything configured the way we want it. We can go back and make any changes if we need to, but this all looks good to go to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and click next. It is going to verify everything to make sure that it thinks that everything's going to be configured correctly. As you can see, we did pass all prerequisites. If you fail, then it'll tell you why it failed. Here we can see, once again, everything's passed. If it's failed, you'll have a red caution stop sign, and it'll tell you what the problem was. Since we pass all prerequisites, I'm going to go ahead and click install. And it is going to go through the installation process. Right, and I will jump back whenever the installation process has completed. Okay, the installation did complete. The server rebooted. It did take about between 5 and 10 minutes for the total process. It did sit on applying computer settings for several minutes, but eventually get to the login screen and you will see this. As you can see, whenever you try to log in now, you are logging in as administrator to the domain. So we're not logging into the administrator account to the local server, we're logging into the domain administrator account. So we're going to enter in the password that we set during the configuration and log in. Right now, if we go to configure this local server, all of this will look pretty much the same, except for one notable difference, and that is under domain, we have the domain that we created. So we are a part of that domain. Over here on the left-hand side, we can also see that under this local server, we have Active Directory Domain Services and DNS right there as well. So we can check to see and make sure those are online and performing. To actually manage those, what I do is always go to the Windows logo at the bottom, find Windows Administrative Tools, and we'll have a lot of new options right here that weren't here before. So the ones that we want to use are Active Directory users and computers. So usually what I'll do is I'll right-click that and go to Pin to Start, or more often than not, I'll just pin that to Taskbar, so it's always right there. Because if I'm logging into this machine, I know that that's one of the things I'm probably going to want to look at. Then also DNS. So we can do the same thing for DNS down here. So I'm going to pin that to taskbar as well. Now if I open that up, so I'm going to open up the Active Directory Domain Services one, the users and computers. We can now see that we have our domain, and we can see the users, as well as all the computers as well. So this is a fresh install, so we don't have any users, but from here I can go in and start adding in users and all of the things that I need to do. From a DNS standpoint, if I open up DNS Manager, we can see that we have our forward and reverse lookup zones, and we can start adding in A names and C names and aliases and all that fun DNS stuff that we need to do. Last thing that you might want to do to this this machine, you could either do that before you started the Active Directory DNS configuration, or you could do that now. But I would recommend doing that before other devices are accessing and using this this machine. The last thing is changing the computer name. So as you can see, this computer name is Win, and then that number. I always like to change mine to something that I remember. Usually I'll make it ADDC or something like that. So you can do that here. So you just click on computer name, change. It's going to say, hey, other things might be using it. If they're using it and this has to reboot, they might not have access to it. So if you just click OK, you can change the computer name. This will force a reboot after you change the computer name, but then after that, you should be good to go with a fresh install of Active Directory and DNS. All right, thanks everyone for watching the video. Have a great rest of the day.